Hello, everyone, and welcome to Simple English Connect.
Hello, Anna, and hello to all our listeners.
I'm Anna, and I'm here to explore English with you, ask questions, and share my own learning journey.
And I'm Alex. I'll be here to explain some of the more difficult parts of English and give you some useful tips.
Today, we're talking about something I think everyone finds hard sometimes: how to keep conversations going, especially what to say after the classic, "How are you?" It's so important for making new friends, for work, for everything, right?
Absolutely, Anna. Knowing how to continue a conversation is a very important skill for talking with people. And the good news is, it's a skill you can learn and improve.
That's great to hear. And listeners, don't forget that in the description of this episode, you'll find a PDF file with key vocabulary and exercises about today's topic.
Let's get started then.
Okay, Alex? We've all had this happen, right? You meet someone, they say, "How are you?" You say, "I'm fine, thanks." And you? They say, "Fine." And then silence. It can be so awkward.
Exactly, Anna. That's a very common situation. The good news is, there are easy ways to move past those first few words. The first step is to try to give a slightly more detailed answer than just fine.
Oh, like what? I don't want to overshare or bore them.
Not at all. It doesn't have to be a long story. It can be something simple. For example, instead of just "I'm fine," you could say, "I'm good, thanks. I just finished an interesting book. How about you?" Or, "I'm doing well actually. I'm really looking forward to the weekend. Do you have any plans?" This gives the other person something to say or ask about.
That makes sense. So, you add a little piece of information about yourself or ask a follow-up question that's a bit more specific than just "and you."
Exactly. This opens the door for a real conversation. It gives them a hook. For example, if you say you just watched an interesting movie, they can ask about the movie. If you say you're looking forward to the weekend, they can share their plans too.
I tried something like this last week. I met a new colleague, and when she asked how I was, I said, "I'm great, thanks. Just had a really good cup of coffee and I'm feeling ready for the day." And she actually smiled and said, "Oh, where did you get the coffee?" And we started talking about good coffee places nearby. It worked.
That's a perfect example, Anna. You gave a small positive piece of information, and it led to a conversation. Okay, let's look at some of the new words we used. Awkward. Definition: making you feel embarrassed or not comfortable. For example, there was an awkward silence after he told the joke. Overshare. Definition: to tell someone too much private information, maybe information that is not right for the situation or the person you are talking to. For example, he tends to overshare details about his private life with colleagues. Follow-up question. Definition: a question you ask to find out more about what someone just said. For example, "That's an interesting point. Can I ask a follow-up question?" Hook. Definition: something that gets people's attention or makes them interested. For example, a good story needs a strong hook in the first paragraph.
Great words, Alex. So, listeners, our first tip is to give a slightly more detailed answer to "How are you?" and maybe ask a more specific follow-up question. What's a simple, positive detail you could add to your "I'm fine" next time?
Or, what's a good follow-up question you could ask instead of just "and you?" For example, instead of just saying "I'm fine," you could say, "I'm doing well. I just started reading a fascinating book. What have you been up to lately?" Share your ideas in the comments below the podcast.
Okay, Alex. So giving a better, more detailed answer definitely helps. But what if they just say "fine" and don't give you much information to continue the conversation? What do you do then?
That's a very important point, Anna. This is where asking open-ended questions becomes really useful. These are questions that can't be answered with a simple yes or no. They invite the other person to share more.
Can you give some examples? What's the difference between an open-ended and a closed-ended question?
Yes, of course. A closed-ended question is something like, "Did you have a good weekend?" The answer is probably just yes or no. An open-ended version of that question could be, "What did you get up to over the weekend?" or "How was your weekend?" This helps them give a longer answer with more details.
Ah, I see. So instead of, do you like your job, which could just get a yes or no, I should ask something like, what do you find most interesting about your job? Or, what's a typical day like for you at work?
Exactly. Questions starting with what, how, where, or tell me about often help you get longer answers. Another key part of keeping conversations going is active listening.
Active listening? You mean like really paying attention and not just waiting for your turn to speak?
Yes, but it's more than just being quiet while the other person talks. It means showing you are listening and interested. You can nod, use small encouraging words like uh-huh, right, interesting, or I see. And importantly, you listen for keywords or topics that you can ask more questions about. If they mention they went to a park, you can ask, "Oh, which park was that?" Or "What did you enjoy about it?" This shows genuine interest.
So it's like being a friendly detective, looking for clues in what they say. I like that idea. It means I don't feel like I have to do all the talking and be super interesting all the time.
Exactly. A good conversation is a two-way street. When you really show you are interested and ask good questions, people are usually happy to talk more. Let's cover the new words from this section. Open-ended question. Definition: a question you can't answer with just yes or no. It helps the other person give a longer, more detailed answer. For example, "What are your plans for the future?" is an open-ended question. Closed-ended question. Definition: a question you can answer with yes or no, or a very short answer with a fact. For example, "Are you coming to the party?" is a closed-ended question. Active listening. Definition: really listening to someone when they speak. You pay attention and maybe ask questions to understand everything. For example, active listening is very important for good communication in a team. Genuine interest. Definition: when you are truly interested in something or someone, not pretending. For example, she showed genuine interest in his story, asking many questions. Two-way street. Definition: a situation where two people or groups must both make an effort. Like a conversation, both people need to talk and listen. For example, communication is a two-way street. Both people need to listen and speak.
This is all so useful, Alex. So, listeners, our next challenge for you. Think about a recent conversation you had. Did you use open-ended questions? Or can you think of a closed-ended question you asked that you could change into an open-ended one?
For instance, instead of asking, "Did you like the movie?" which is closed-ended, you could ask, "What did you think of the movie?" or "What was your favorite part of the movie?" These are open-ended. We'd love to hear your examples or how you changed your questions in the comments.
Wow, Alex. I definitely feel more confident about keeping conversations going now. So, to quickly say the main points again, the first step after "how are you" is to give a slightly more detailed answer yourself and maybe ask a specific follow-up.
That's right. And then, focus on asking open-ended questions to help the other person say more, and practice active listening to show you are really interested and find new things to talk about from their answers.
These are fantastic tips. And remember, listeners, practice is key. Don't be afraid to try these tips. The more you use them, the more natural they'll become. And don't forget to check out the PDF for this episode. It has all the vocabulary we talked about, plus some extra examples and exercises to help you practice. You can find the link in the description.
Thank you all for listening to Simple English Connect. We hope you found this episode helpful and feel more ready for your next conversation.
Please subscribe if you haven't already, and feel free to leave us a rating or share this episode with friends who are also learning English. We really appreciate your support.
We'll talk to you in the next episode. Goodbye for now.
Bye, everyone.